From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And this episode is one of our breaking news from a long time ago episodes. And hey, a tiny bit of news broke right before we started recording. A new quote from Donald Glover. It happened so recently, it's probably not even reflected in the thumbnail for this episode of our show. So we're excited to be able to talk about that, catch up on some of the news about Ewan McGregor's star, a lawsuit about Peter Cushing, touch base on the new Lego show, as well as get some of Jennifer's thoughts on the sad passing of the legend James Earl Jones. But before all that, we want to let you know that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. How are you possibly going to choose which title? Let us try to help. We're going to recommend Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp because it keeps coming up in random discussions, and it's a good Star Wars book for spooky Halloween times. So you can download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. We also have some asks and really updates. Ken?
Asks and updates indeed. We are asking you to check out Patreon, patreon.com/ForceCenter. That is where you can support us directly, get into our Discord, and get the call link. So when we go live and we take calls, you can have your voice heard right here on the show. And we are looking for 415 paid supporters. We're calling back up for 400. It really helps us keep the show going in a robust manner. So consider checking out Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Also, we'd like to let you know that we are on Blue Sky now. Finally, Joseph got that set up. He is monitoring the territory of Blue Sky, and I'm over on Threads. Divided it up. No, we didn't actually divide. We can cross over, but it just seems that's kind of what's happening. And you can look for us at ForceCenter on Threads and Blue Sky right now, where we're a little more active in Instagram as well. So there you go. This one asks.
Yeah, and we don't need to dive deep into it, but part of the reason we were mentioning Blue Sky and Threads here at the top is unless there's some deep need to, we're not going to be actively posting on X, Twitter. So if you want to take a break from that site and some of the things happening there, you can visit us on Blue Sky and Threads to keep up. Hey, even if you want to stay on X, maybe you can do what I do and spend a long part of your life cutting and pasting the exact same social media posts to different social media sites. Even if you're not ready to leave X, you can still join us over on Blue Sky and Threads and get those communities going. So thank you for that. Let's move on to life adventures. We're going to talk a little bit about anything that we want to that happened in our lives, but also touch in briefly on the Lego Rebuild the Galaxy show that was released. We're not doing a big deep dive or a super big review, but just kind of a light touch of this new Star Wars. Jennifer, you have any life Star Wars adventures in reaction to Lego?
You know what? I just had a thought as you were talking. So we have our new merch shop, which is connected to our YouTube channel, correct? So I have an idea for 2 T-shirts based on the Lego Rebuild the Galaxy.
Okay.
The quote, "I really want to pet an Ewok. It's not creepy." That should be on a T-shirt for sure. And the next T-shirt idea is, "You bet your bantha." There were some great lines like that in the Rebuild the Galaxy show. It just was a fun concept. Definitely, it's great for kids, new fans. But yeah, there were some great lines that I just kept cracking up on. I had to mark those down.
Yeah, that was great. And Star Wars find you in your life in any other way this week?
I was trying to think. No, I'm in Halloween mode. I see a cinnamon broom. I bought at Sprouts. I'm going to be spray painting a cauldron soon. So Halloween mode.
That's great. You reminded me that 2 years ago, I bought a spooky Halloween themed Clone Trooper Black Series figure, but it came after Halloween in 2022. And then last year, it was during the strikes, so I didn't want to open it. So this year, I can finally, 2 years later, open that spooky damn action figure.
Wait, what did it look like? I think I remember this. Was it candy? Was it candy corn or no?
No, they put out a bunch of them for Halloween and for Christmas this one is like a glow in the dark, like there's a skull on his face. And the reason I really like this one is he comes with a little vampire porg.
That's right.
Got a little like a Bela
babe.
Lugosi Dracula cape.
Oh, shoot, I need that. Yeah, okay. Marla agrees.
Ken, did you have any spooky Star Wars adventures and thoughts on Rebuild the Galaxy?
Other than just enjoying the temperatures dropping dramatically here in the valley, the San Fernando Valley, where I'm at, no, I didn't do much. That was what it was. The victory of the weekend. Comedy show on Friday night, just kind of slept in. Had to pick up Grace at LAX on a Saturday night. That's kind of an adventure. That's kind of like going to Coruscant. And trying to fight your way around. I did watch all of Rebuild the Galaxy. We had set a goal here on ForceCenter to watch at least the first episode, maybe have something to talk about. A lot of folks in our Discord having a lot of fun with the series. I watched it all. It was a breakfast watch, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoy Bobby Moynihan a lot, and it's good to see him. Good to see Ahmed Best back as Jar Jar in any form, including Darth Jar Jar. It was a fun series. I think it does what it needs to do. It is not just for a younger audience, of course. I think even some of the jokes would be over younger audiences, not in terms of sexual innuendo in Star Wars, but just references to BTS stories and urban legends inside Star Wars. But I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed the Lego humor. It's one of those things that I'm like, I like that it's there. And if there's going to be a second series, and they're obviously going to continue to go on with some of the Lego content, I like that it's just there on that Disney Plus Star Wars category. Do you just want to watch some Star Wars, but you don't have a lot of time type of thing? You could go serious with like Tales of, or you could just explore the wonderful wild world of Star Wars Lego. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I only had time to watch the first episode this morning, and I liked that. It had all the great Lego jokes. The pet in the Ewok was lovely. Some of the kind of inside jokes, humor about Wookiees versus Ewoks being in Return of the Jedi. And I enjoyed all the joke stuff. In particular, the clone Akbars were fun. The little scene where the two of them were like, "Stop doing what I'm doing." That was lovely. But I always am interested in kind of like, how are they going to approach the idea? And the one thing that I thought was the most interesting in that first episode was this subversion of a young, Force talented kid who actually doesn't want to have adventures and quite likes their life. So, Ken, I'm sure you know the answer to this, but I'm very excited to see where that goes. That specific idea. I've gone on about, and I think we did an episode of Other Center about in life trying to find the balance between comfort versus adventure. Of like, we all need those times where we eat the exact food that makes us happy, just at home in sweatpants, just cuddled up. Versus if you stay that way for too long, you start craving and needing something new, something exciting. So I thought that tension between comfort versus adventure was really interesting. I don't know where it goes, but clearly a lot of other people do because they finish watching it.
It plays out quite well. All fun, all good, and it spawned some. I know they have the Dark Millennium Falcon out there as a Lego set. I think they have the Bounty Hunter Ewoks were a highlight, and they were in like kind of convertible, like transforming Y-wings, and that was well done. And I kept thinking, okay, I think I would buy that. I'd buy a Lego Bounty Hunter Y-wing with screaming Bounty Hunter Ewok. So they got me. Lego got me.
Yeah. People have been clamoring for, some kind of what if in Star Wars for a long time. And for me, this felt like kind of the right way it fits in with the idea of Lego. And it is, I think, can be more on the fun side than the like super deep. And for me, that works. I was happy to see the X-Wing TIE Fighter combo. And I wouldn't be surprised to have many, many toys of those. Yeah. But it feels right to do it in Lego world. It was interesting to me to watch this. I watched the Freemaker Adventures probably about 10 years ago. And when you get older, that feels like 5 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
So I admit that some of it felt like, this is funny, but I kind of feel like we've hit these beats before. And then I had that moment and stepped back, like, I feel that way because 10 years ago feels like 5 minutes ago to me.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with maybe hitting some of the same beats in something that is partially for kids, because as a new generation hearing these jokes and these bits, for the first time. So at first I was like, hey, where's the new? And then it's like, yeah, let's look at this from a different perspective.
God, yeah. There's probably some 8-year-olds watching this going, this is great. And they weren't there for, all right. We always,
there's no 8-year-old going
us in the face. Yeah.
Right. It's terrible. But there's no 8-year-old going, this is too derivative of the Freemaker Adventures, which, was broadcast when I was -2.
Yeah.
It's important for me to work on the perspective.
Yeah, because for kids, it moves so fast. Like when they're 6, they're really into maybe one thing, and then the next year they're like, I hate that. I never want to see that again. So this is like a great entry point for kids, and they're like, oh, it's new, right? And that's really like Netflix, man. They got that model down where it's like new. You're like, oh, here's a new show, and so I think it's a really great entry point for any person to get into. Star Wars. It catches you up to speed. You don't need to know all the canon. That's nice.
Yeah, makes it so.
Yeah, and always fun to see any storytelling happening in the post-sequel era. Which so far is all Lego pretty much. All right, we are gonna move on to discussing some of the news. Last week, right after we finished recording, we learned the sad news of the passing of James Earl Jones. Ken and I were able to do a live stream and have a great discussion with lots of listeners and share some of our feelings about James Earl Jones' work and importance in the role of voice acting Vader, but also just his larger career. So we wanted to give Jennifer an opportunity and us an opportunity to benefit from Jennifer's thoughts. So, Jennifer, what did James Earl Jones mean to you?
He represented such a large part of Star Wars for me, and it's hard to believe that he's gone. And really, when you're looking at the original cast, Peter Mayhew, Carrie Fisher, Kenny Baker, now James Earl Jones, it feels like Star Wars, I don't want to say is going away, but it does kind of have that feeling for me of just like this passage of time, and now there's a new generation, and I could get very, depressing because I'm like,
talking about time. Yeah.
It just reminds me of like my own mortality, right? As we get older, like the people that we grew up with are dying, and it's just sad. And so, he had 93 summers, which is a long, wonderful life. And he did so much. I didn't know that he also had his own. No, it still exists today. The James Earl Jones Theater on Broadway. I didn't know that. I think that's fantastic. And he had a really extensive Broadway theater career.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of a powerhouse actor whose career would have been massive without Vader, but then clearly Vader is a huge part of his legacy and how a lot of us were introduced to him. So I do want to ask you about some of his Star Wars role and some of his not Star Wars roles. We had a great discussion on the live stream with people sharing not just their favorite Vader lines, but looking at it from an acting perspective, this unique acting challenge he had. What Vader lines to you feel like, ooh, that's a great acting job from James Earl Jones?
Every line in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, really, every line. If you really listen to the "No, I am your father," there's like this slight pause. He just, I don't think that people really understand the acting that was involved in that performance. And if you watch, no shade to David Prowse, but if you watch the original footage, it's like it just does not have the same gravitas and performance that we get later on with James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I mean, with all the lines we all listed, I don't think any of us on the live stream listed the most famous iconic
we didn't
Vader line. And you're right. I've marveled at is there tape somewhere of him choosing which word to emphasize and trying all of them, because almost all of them would maybe work, but it's the I am your father, and it's that it punches it and gives it that little pause. Yeah,
and there's something like where you can hear like him almost relishing sharing this detail. There's like this villainous delight in it. Like how do you capture that? Like, oh my gosh, it's just fantastic what he did.
Yeah.
Good choice. So funny that me, Joseph, the entire live listening audience kind of overlooked. It's so iconic. That's what it is. It's just so iconic. You just you almost put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Great pull there, Jennifer. What non-Star Wars work from James Earl Jones has made an impact or have you appreciated?
Mufasa, Lion King, which is so interesting because, like, when I saw it as a kid, I don't think I really connected that he. Are you laughing?
We have a follow-up, and we'll tell you.
Okay,
we want to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's just funny because, like, when I was a kid and I heard his voice, I don't think I really connected that that this was Vader. Like, I don't know how. I don't know. His performance is completely different, and which is just really shows what a great actor he is. But yeah, that's the biggest one. And of course, he was in Coming to America, the Eddie Murphy one, and a lot of those like movies in the 80s that he would kind of show up. I think he was in like Naked Gun, a Naked Gun movie as like himself or something. I don't know. It's like he just kind of would pop up every now and then. It's like, there's a friendly face. There's my Vader.
Sandlot.
Yep.
Yeah, Sandlot, exactly.
Yeah, Field of Dreams.
Yes, right.
Some of the Jack Ryan films. People shared. We had a great conversation on the live stream, and the reason Ken and I were making weird faces, Jennifer, is that we have something to tell you. We understand if you're upset with us. Many people said that his performance in Lion King was what they loved, and Ken and I decided to confirm on air and share the fact that neither of us has ever seen The Lion King.
What? How? How have you guys ever seen The Lion King?
We discussed this at length, but Ken, go for it.
In short, this was in 1993. This was the peak kind of high school. Are we putting some stuff behind? Also, animation is never less than, but sometimes in the conversation it is. And then we even got to the Elton John song, Circle of Life. I love Elton John. I just rewatched the 1971, the year that music changed everything, doc, and he's so wonderful in that. But in 1993, it was like, what is this legend doing with this schmaltzy Disney tune? Like, no, like get out. No, you're the bitch's back guy. Like, what are you doing? So it was just this, everything added up to, no, I didn't sit down and watch it. Never did.
Yeah.
Never did.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is the same experience for me as my first year in college or last year in high school. And I wanted everything to be a little bit grittier and edgier and real and not too like safe and easygoing. And, a safe Disney musical, and the song Circle of Life was like, oh, it sounded so cute and everything's going to be okay. It made me feel like growing up in the 80s when adults would just tell you everything is going to be okay. And it was like so fake and like Ken said, schmaltzy. That was my perspective at the time. I know that's not true now. So it wasn't, I think everyone I was around must have made fun of it because I didn't have any sort of musical theater friends. So I understand people who are in musical theater were like, oh, of course, or theater in general. And I wasn't at the time. And then for years and years, I took me a while until I realized, oh no, this is a massive and important film to many, many people.
The story, it's so devastating and triumphant. The music, every time I've seen The Lion King on Broadway, which is a few times now, I cry when I hear the Circle of Life and the opening number. And part of it is because you have these incredible performers and these elaborate like costumes and puppets. And it's just so overwhelmingly beautiful. It's so interesting, the schmaltiness. And I guess I was like an early teen, but I don't know. I mean, I even had like I think there was like McDonald's toys, like with Simba and Nala. I had those.
You're giving the correct answers, Jen.
Yes.
We're looking back and saying, yeah, we understand we weren't right. It's just one of those things that you just don't watch it and you don't miss it, so you don't know what you missed, But believe me, we're in the minority. In fact, I saw a comment today, Molly Damon swung through just to say, what are y'all doing? You got to watch that film. So.
You got to watch it. You got to watch it. It's so good.
I'm going to watch it with an open heart to understand what everybody loves. Is one of my first like really great generational lessons of like the people I was around of my age who were just becoming adults looked down on it because it looked really kiddie, but that was not the experience everybody else had. Right. So what we talk about all the time is like, be aware of your perspective is kind of going to be frozen in a moment of time. And it's not necessarily the truth.
It's
yeah.
I recently experienced this. There's a band that tragically lost their lead singer, so not making fun of that at all. But they hired a new lead singer, a female lead singer. It's Linkin Park, and everyone celebrated it. I'm like, but wait a minute, we all determined this was bad music, right? Didn't we all determine? Oh, we didn't. Okay, I've got to learn the ForceCenter lessons here in music as well. So okay, but yeah, it's a valuable lesson.
Yeah, valuable lesson.
Yeah, Hakuna Matata, Timon, Pumbaa. You're gonna love it.
But I know all the references,
Yeah, right? Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I've still never seen Top Gun. I know who Goose is. I know what happens.
Well,
you
got
saw
yourself...
the recent one, right? Have you guys seen the recent one?
I didn't see the recent. I've seen the
It's
original.
good.
I saw the original, but
You saw the original?
No, I know it's good. It's my friend Mark Ellis's favorite movie
Really?
of all time. So,
Wow.
yeah, anyways.
you got yourself a hell of a double feature there, Ken.
Oh my gosh.
Top Guns.
Yeah.
Into like,
Well, we'll have to coordinate when we actually watch Lion King. But
there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe it'd be a stretch goal or something.
No, that's how we'll get to our Patreon
A big
goal.
one.
A big one. When we reach 3,000 Patreon subscribers.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So moving along to some break-in news, and I guess by news, it's a quote. There is not a quote from Donald Glover about the Lando film. Scanning the article here, it looks like he was doing an interview with the Wall Street Journal. Asked about the Lando film, he said, "I just want it to be fun. As a Star Wars fan myself, I think it's important that it needs to be fun. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening, and those are the only things that connect us weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is that we have the responsibility to have an enjoyment, and I think we're lacking that. Star Wars, I love it, but sometimes it can be super serious. Anything that has to do with the Skywalkers is like so serious. Lando, I think the best part about him is that he's a scoundrel, and people can relate to that. He's probably like, man, this war is like whack. I need money, which I think people can relate to. I just want it to be fun." So that's the quote. Ken, what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with this assessment of Lando with Star Wars and the world?
Yeah, I think he's leaving out some of Lando's growth, but also I really like this quote. I think I like Donald Glover. Donald Glover is not someone who shies away from issues in his art. Looking at some of his music in the past, he's also gone through a tremendous amount of growth in his career, thank God, with some of the stuff he used to do early to where he is now. So I respect where he's coming from. And this is kind of based around a conversation we had recently about getting a lot of stoic characters, a lot of furrowed brows in Star Wars, which I love and I take lessons from. And I don't want anyone to think I don't. But that's my ForceCenter caveat. But to say that I really like what he's saying, and I wouldn't want a Lando movie, even if it was going to be a series, but a Lando movie to be anything but this, because there isn't a lack of poignancy in this fun, and nothing he's saying is wrong, and nothing he's saying is too specific, right? It's just the general, like, it's a Skywalker saga is big, and it's galaxy stakes and all those kind of things, and part of the thing I love about the solo Star Wars story film is it's got heart. It's got some really fun moments mixed in with serious moments, but it's just got that Star Wars feel that I think of when I sit down for Star Wars in general, because I also do like the big moments that make you cry, or the big moments where the galaxy is about to fall. I do like that. But I'm just in a mind frame right now where I think I need a Lando film. I think I need some more Solo, and I think I need to see what he's got cooking up.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
I love this quote. I think he's right on the money, and I think that people want something fun and swashbuckling adventure. Definitely the roots of Star Wars. Is he talking about a Lando movie, or is he talking about a series, or just in general? Because I can't remember.
It's a
movie.
while
Now. Back, it was
a movie now. Okay.
Yeah, reported that it had shifted in development from. I think one writer left and it said it wasn't a TV series anymore, and Donald Glover wanted to write it, and his brother, and it was going to be a movie now.
I think that people really want that type of a movie in the theater, and I think that could be a really fun experience. It's also why I love Solo as well. And there is something to be said about the Skywalker saga being very heavy, and all this canon and all this stuff. And again, you can introduce new people to these characters and just have it be a fun romp. And that's all it needs to be. And there's a time and a place for when we want to dive in deep in these other stories. That's great. Lando doesn't have to do that. And I think that's appealing. I'm excited. I'm excited to see if this happens or not.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole huge like if this ever came out, when would it? How does it fit in with everything they've announced? All that. Yeah, I think for me it isn't like very very serious or fun. It's that Star Wars is to me in the 6 films that Lucas made in particular, there was such a balancing act. And one of the things that makes those films unique is they can pivot from absolutely heartbreaking, deeply meaningful to just kind of joyous and fun, and that scoundrel energy brought by Han and Lando. Han and Lando have arcs, they have emotions, they have important things that happen to them. It just feels like the sort of the ingredients of Star Wars have been a little out of balance, where we haven't had as much fun. So I just kind of feel like, yeah, go ahead, let's make it Star Wars that can still be meaningful, and the stakes are still high, but let's just up the ingredient of fun. It's just like that, it needs that spice for me. And I get cranky about the idea that fun or swashbuckling means it isn't meaningful or thoughtful. I think the surface level of the original Star Wars film is fun. I think the surface level of Solo is fun, but they still like have rich ideas to them. And it seems like with the kind of creator that Donald Glover is, the film would be about something, and it might be about something very important, but the language it's using to discuss that important thing could be fun and swashbuckling and from one problem to the next, and suave guy making bad choices. Sounds great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just very quickly, I think what he's talking about is so beyond Star Wars of saying in the world there are various serious things. And I kind of feel that on like all the social media of, yes, they're extremely important, very serious things going on in the world, and we should be talking about them, and we need to deal with them. But I think then we get kind of addicted to like being in that mode of always being stressed and always tension. And like people just don't make as many jokes as they used to on social media. And I don't want there to be jokes in that, like, we're not paying attention to these serious things. Again, it's that sort of sense of balance. And I think it's very insightful of him to relate what we need in our storytelling to what we're experiencing in our day-to-day life.
And I thought that he did a fantastic job on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's an action adventure kind of, spy show, but they go in deep. There are some really like deep relationship moments between the two characters. He's not afraid to go there and have it be meaningful, but have them shooting and running away at the same time while having these like heart to heart moments between these characters. And obviously Atlanta, they deal with some really deep issues, but they do it in a way that's like really interesting and sometimes comedic. And so he knows how to play on all the levels. And that's really what I think he's going to bring to Lando. That's going to be unique, is to be able to be like, ha ha ha. And then there's all this other stuff going on.
This quote is ripe for misquotes and little break aparts that might seem more negative towards Star Wars overall, which is why I love diving in and discuss. But everything you said, Joseph, and Jen too. But I agree with you both. But Joseph, you've said about it's just it's more serious right now. Like I find myself having to have some fun every now and then, not just in life, but just like in your humor, in your art, in your materials. Like don't be afraid to explore a different way through the mire and muck that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, we need some hope too. That's such a big part of Star Wars. So I'm curious if you both feel like the film is going to come out in the next 10 years, or do you think Lando is coming soon in 2048, Ken? Or
yeah, I don't have a lot of hope that it's not just this, but like even some of the other projects that are still officially out there, with Sean Levy's project, which is still in a weird nebulous. I guess it's happening, not happening. I don't know.
Lucasfilm has never announced it.
Yeah. Thank you. And then Taika Waititi, which is going to be another fun, weird pass to the Star Wars galaxy. At this point, it's not even Lucasfilm. If anyone wants to say they've had problems in the last few years, and you can't deny that there were some choices and problems and things they've had to fix and do, I don't think it's that. I tap the board of the state of the industry. I don't think a lot of people know what's happening.
Yeah. Jennifer, what are your hopes for when a Lando film might emerge?
I think if he has a solid script and he's ready to go, I think that it could absolutely happen. I feel like that's kind of with all the creators that are floating around the Lucasfilm universe, right? It's kind of like who's ready to go, who has a solid script, does this fit within our slate? Is it and other things happening, right? And I don't think it's just obviously it's not just Lucasfilm. It really is Disney and what Disney wants to put out there and market, and it's a lot of money, and they want to make sure that they're going to get it back. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I want Lando to be a big splashy adventure. So yeah, I don't think any corner cutting on the costs is probably not a great idea for a Lando. Well, you heard it here first. Lando coming out 2048. Our official prediction here on ForceCenter. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back to discuss the news we plan to discuss. Back in a moment. And we have returned to discuss the news that I put in the thumbnail. Sorry, it's not entirely accurate. Anyway, we are going to talk about Ewan McGregor's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Speaking of joyful things. On September 12th, Ewan McGregor got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It is very close to Disney's theater, El Capitan, and the star itself is not at all far from the stars of Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, which Ewan even mentioned in his speech that he was happy to be close to Carrie Fisher. So Ewan, much like James Earl Jones, has had a massive career without Star Wars. But there's also no doubt that his legacy of Obi-Wan is just a huge part of this honor and of getting the star. Ken, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the balance with somebody like Ewan in getting this star? How much of it is to you about Obi-Wan Kenobi got a star and how much of it is about his larger career?
It's telling that even an oldster like me goes to that first. And, I was here for Train Spotting. I was there. I was here for all that. Velvet Goldmine and Little Voice is one of my favorite films, and that's from '99 as well. So I've seen Moulin Rouge. I haven't seen Lion King, but I've seen Moulin Rouge a couple times. But it's telling that I go to Obi-Wan. I think that has a lot to do with the last couple of years, and I think, without the resurgence of the love for the prequel era, with the prequel generation kind of taking the lead on that, without the arrival of this, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I think you would have. I think he'd look back on it more fondly. But let's not forget that there was years that they didn't talk about Star Wars. They didn't talk about the prequels. They mumbled something under their breath if they're on Kimmel or Tonight Show or something like that about it. And I just like where we're at, where finally they kind of could feel the love that was there. I think there's been some pleasant, warm surprise in Ewan's voice when talking about it over the years. And when the call for him to be Kenobi began and he had to deny it in interviews and everything, I think that's the journey towards this moment where it is Obi-Wan gets a star, not just Ewan McGregor. And I love that journey for him and for us as fans.
Yeah. Totally agreed. Jennifer, what are your thoughts on the balance between Ewan and Kenobi getting a star?
The funny thing for me is that during the prequels and after the prequels, I did not ever really associate Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor. For me, Obi-Wan Kenobi was Alec Guinness. That's just the way it is. This was just a role for him. And partially because as I've said, I was not really into the prequels. So it's almost like I just kind of put that away. And because he's been such a versatile actor over the years, I never tied him to that until recently. And now, after seeing Kenobi, it's really hard for me to see him as anything but Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, I forget this mustache show that he's in. I forget what it's called. But I was
it's Gentleman in Moscow, but it should have been called Mustache in Moscow, and I think it would have been even better received.
Yeah, I just feel like at this point it's just all, I don't know. I cannot get him out of my mind as Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's it. It. It's funny how that's changed.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to remember if I had even seen Train Spotting before Phantom Menace. I think I saw Velvet Goldmine before Phantom. Well, I can't remember. Maybe not. Anyway, but it was definitely like, yeah, he was a big name. And when it was announced, all my friends were like, yeah, he's cool. He's in this, he's in that. And I just imprinted on that character. And for years, when the people around me really dislike the prequels, I would usually, diffuse the conversation by saying like, yeah, but Ewan McGregor is amazing as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And almost everybody's like, yeah, okay. He is.
Yeah.
He is. He is absolutely Obi-Wan Kenobi to me because of that perspective and relationship. But then he has a ton of other films that I love. I love that Christopher Robin film. I haven't seen it in years, but Down with Love is a weird, great film. He's done a million things. He would be a revered actor. Moulin Rouge I've seen multiple times. I believe I saw Ewan McGregor in Guys and Dolls in London, and a show, live action play show. So like I have seen him and I appreciate him in other things, and it's a bonus for me to see something if he's in it. But I think there's something about this that he seems to embrace, that because of the nature of Star Wars, because of the nature of Kenobi, it's not a role, it's a legacy. It's like something he's carrying with him. He's the steward of it for now. And like Moulin Rouge is a massive, huge film that will be discussed and studied for years and years. But it's not like that character is, something that has a legacy onto itself. It's the movie, and he's in the movie. And I think that's what's kind of different about Star Wars. And I think it's been great to see how much he has. He was never publicly really negative about Star Wars. I think he was honest that his experience of shooting with all of the green screens and the blue screens was difficult, and he had a sense of humor about it and lots of funny clips of him describing the challenges of filming that way. But it has been great to see him kind of come around and really embrace how much Star Wars is a part of his legacy, while also not being entirely defined by it. And it's, I think, very similar to James Earl Jones of like, yeah, I embrace that. That's the first thing a lot of people are going to think of when they see me, but it's not the entirety of who I am or what I've done.
Yeah, I like that. That's the power of Star Wars overall. It is definitely a legacy, something bigger than just the role. But it's been Jen, I'm with you too on the journey of it. I've always loved his performance in it. I too, Joseph, would be going, yeah, but Ewan, right? Like that was kind of an icebreaker in the tension we discussed in prequels over the years. I love this is again championing the prequel generation, coming around and letting folks like Ewan feel that love and have a better understanding of what they did. I think that's the thing, as creators, as artists, as actors, as musicians, anything, poets, whatever. Sometimes you feel like, even on that scale, that what you're doing is not necessarily reaching people, and you never know what effect you're having. And so it's rare that you get to maybe feel it, and for him to get to feel it in this way has been wonderful to watch.
And speaking of feeling that legacy, one of the two speakers at the ceremony was Hayden Christensen, who had this very kind quote. My friend Ewan, I want to thank you for being the best Jedi Master that anyone could have ever hoped for. You always had my back, and I thank you for that. I'm just so happy that I get to be here with you right now. It's been an honor and a thrill to work with you and swing a lightsaber with you, and more than anything, to call you my friend. I love you, brother. So, Jennifer, how does it make you feel that while Obi-Wan might have failed Anakin, it would appear Ewan did not fail Hayden?
They have a really interesting and special relationship. I've shared this before. I saw them at Star Wars Celebration a few years ago, and this was before Kenobi came out, and it was kind of like Hayden's return, if you will, to Star Wars land, right? And to the kind of press frenzy and the fans. I mean, he's always been around, but this was like a big homecoming. And you could tell that he was a little nervous. He walked into this press area and we were going to, bombard him with questions. And he just kind of had this look of just like trying to hold it together. I mean, obviously he's a pro, but Ewan McGregor, oh my gosh, that man is a star. Like he just walks in and you're just like, okay, like you get it, right? You get why he is who he is. Just super charming, totally at ease. And just the dynamic that they had was he had this like protective energy over Hayden and like helping him out with questions, helping him out with the quotes, like just kind of making sure he looked good. And it just was really, really sweet. I was like, oh boy, he really is like a big brother in some sense. It just is a really neat relationship that they have all these years later. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great observation about that specific journey of, it's one thing to come back to the role and get in the costume and talk about acting and get back into fighting. It's another thing of how do you embrace this very public selling of the show and the relationship with fans. And yeah, I'm sure it's overwhelming, and Ewan does know how to handle it. He's does such a great job of being very honest, while also, I think, kind of giving people what they're there for, is, you know, a little bit of a show,
Razzle dazzle,
little razzle dazzle. But he's
yeah.
always, I think he's always like really makes an effort to be honest. Even in his speech, he was real honest about, like, I've remembered lengthy pieces of Shakespeare. I cannot remember the name of the organization that is giving me the star, so I have to read it off a piece of paper. Like, that kind of disarming honesty, I think he's really good at, and it's very kind to see him kind of extend those ideas to Hayden. Ken, what is your thought on this sort of real life journey that we wish Obi-Wan and Anakin could have had?
I know, so painful. It's one of the things, especially, it's weird to say, we're talking a lot about time, and you're talking about Anaheim, Jen. You're talking about Celebration 2022. That's only 2 years ago, right? It seems like a lifetime ago already. And that was part of the joy of that convention and that lead up to the show was them back together. But them kind of back together, not just on a cast, on a call sheet, but like in life, because they hadn't talked in a while. You know, life happens, and Hayden goes and does he get a llama farm up there in Canada? He has a family starts. He has a marriage end. He has a lot of life, and Ewan has a lot of that going on too. We know the tabloids there, but to see them back together and rediscover each other, and Jen, you're so right, to have the movie star, a big personality, kind of having a guiding hand on the shoulder of Hayden, as Hayden, who didn't work a ton. I was looking on his IMDb. Whether by choice, I'm not saying it was like a prequel curse. He didn't get roles. He did kind of step aside for a lot of the time. But he's worked consistently, but not in big things you haven't heard of. And so for him to come back in this way, I think it was fun to watch. It was heartwarming to watch, and spoke to the Star Wars family vibe that we always kind of are drawn to. Once you're in the family, you're in, man. And so that was part of the fun.
Yeah. I think for me, what's powerful about it is, there are these ideas in Star Wars, we always talk about, like, it's heightened, but they can relate to real life. And I think one of those big ideas of Star Wars is everybody does need a mentor, a parent figure, a big brother. In the fact that Ewan seemed to know from early on that that's who he needed to be for Hayden. And that great moral idea in Star Wars can play out in real life. It makes me happy for real life, and it makes the tragedy of Star Wars feel even more tragic that Obi-Wan wanted to be there for Anakin, couldn't figure out how to do it. And it does make it all just much more like storybook, that they did go through a dark time in terms of the reception to the prequels, and they're able to, come back together on this sort of victory lap that was the Kenobi show. Totally agree with all that. I want to touch briefly on the business part. We don't need to linger on this for a while, because we have been talking lots of business. During his own speech, Ewan thanked Paramount Plus and Disney Plus for sponsoring the campaign to get the star. Now, Paramount Plus released the show Gentlemen in Moscow, which is the reason Ewan had a big, weird mustache during his 2023 or 2022. No, it's 2023 Star Wars Celebration appearance in London. During the Kenobi panel, he had this just like giant, weird walrus mustache. People like, what's that for? It's for Gentlemen in Moscow. Gentlemen in Moscow made a big push for Emmy nominations for the show, which unfortunately didn't work. They got locked out of the Emmys. But if they were in contention for the Emmys, this, I think, would have been a great thing to be happening. So Paramount Plus wants to sell this show that was critically well received, I believe. They're pushing for Emmys, so it makes sense that they would be like, this would be a good time for us to put our backs behind getting Ewan McGregor a star. But Ken, do you have any thoughts on, why Disney Lucasfilm might have pushed for this? Despite Ewan mentioning it again in another interview this weekend that he'd love to do more Kenobi, as we've discussed, it certainly doesn't seem like it's in the cards. So why do you think this would have been a priority for Disney Lucasfilm?
I think part of that legacy. I think they like building that legacy, the lore, and you've had some big names in the last few years. Get that. What it used to be $10,000 for a star. I'm sure it's gone up.
Yeah, I have
Sure,
no
it's
idea the
gone.
price.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the application. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we've discussed in the past, but you have to get these groups together. They have to pay for it's not just random that they put these names down, which is why it always coincides with some good press. But I think for it to be near the El Capitan Theater, I mean that's definitely, like you said up top, Joseph. That's where they're collecting a lot of these names, and I think it's a good thing. You and I. I was like, where did we just talk about this? Oh, we talked about it on a podcast that's coming out this week with Jeff Overhead Wire. So you talked about your love about the Walk of Fame, and I think it's kind of it's a fun little wrinkle, and I think it made sense for Disney to collect that name. I don't mean that cynically. They're just like, hey, you come to our theater, and here's some of these names around here.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much as I want to be a Kenobi season 2 truther and see evidence of it everywhere. I don't think this is evidence of it. I think this is them continuing to want to build the legacy of Star Wars. I think it isn't just Lucasfilm, it's Disney, and I'm sure Disney wants to maintain a relationship with Ewan McGregor and perhaps get him to do some non-Kenobi things for the larger company of Disney. Yeah, in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, it's I love it because it's very Hollywood in that it is both a fabricated dream, but then there's reality to it that actually matters to people. Like I was saying on this other podcast, it's within walking distance of my apartment, and for me, it's like partially just my neighborhood, and I see the people having a hard time on Hollywood Boulevard, and I see the tourists and people being deeply moved because they feel closer to this star, and sometimes a long gone and partially forgotten star that you don't hear about is still being kept alive by this legend that is about promotion, but it's also about legacy and our connection to the art. So the Walk of Fame is meaningful to me, and I don't think it's just like a cheap, flashy showbiz thing. It might start that way, but the actual connection between humans and artists is real, and it's a great place to celebrate it.
Yeah, indeed.
Any other thoughts on Ewan McGregor's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Ken?
No, I'm good, Jen. If you going to take the kids down there to get some Ghirardelli chocolate and see Ewan's star?
I was just at Hollywood and Highland over the weekend, and I saw the El Cap, and I was like, oh, there it is. And then I turned around, I saw the Hollywood sign. I was like, all right, this is pretty magical. This is all right in my book. So, yeah, that's pretty cool that he got that.
Yeah. I can't wait to go take a walk and visit all the stars piling up down there. Last story we want to talk about is a strange one. A production company is suing Disney Lucasfilm over Peter Cushing's likeness in Rogue One. I took some of this summary directly from the fine folks at Star Wars Newsnet, because there's a good summary of all the legal battles going on. So a London-based film company called Tyburn Film Productions is suing Disney for using Peter Cushing's image in Rogue One. As reported by The Telegraph, the company claims that the VFX recreation violates a contract that was made between the company and Peter Cushing before he died. Even though a high court judge said that he was far from persuaded that Tyburn Film Productions would win the case, the judge also said that it did need a full factual inquiry. The film company claims its agreement with Peter Cushing gave the company the ability to veto any recreation of his image with the use of special effects. Lucasfilm and another company involved, Lunac Heavy Industries, state that they did not believe permission was needed from Tyburn because of the terms of Peter Cushing's contract that go back to 1977. While Disney and Lucasfilm may not have asked for permission from Tyburn Film Productions, they did reach an agreement with the executors of Cushing's estate, granting the state a fee for the use of his image. All right, we are not legal experts, but generally, suing Disney is always a bit of an uphill battle. Jen, how do you think this might turn out?
They're going to lose. I mean, they're not going to even get a settlement. I mean, I don't know. Do they have some sort of really clear contract, with Peter Cushing? I haven't really read up on this, but it's you have to have strong physical, hard evidence in order to win a case, especially against Disney, who has the top lawyers and lots of money to be able to drag this on in course. And lawyer fees are very expensive. So Tyburn, sorry. You're not going to win, unfortunately.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, there we have some legal punditry from Jennifer. This is
Yeah,
fiery.
my
I,
legal knowledge.
yeah,
I won't get into it.
I had to get one contract written up by a lawyer, and it was like, well, we understand you don't have any money, so we'll give you a discount. And I was still like, my lord, the
Oh
price
my
of this.
gosh.
Yeah.
Phone calls by the hour. My husband works for a nonprofit legal firm. And so,
Yeah.
thank God for them because it's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Ken, what are your thoughts on this case moving forward? Any success from Tyburn Productions?
Nice try. Nice try. You're like a X-Wing swatting up against a shield generator around a planet. No, I'm curious about this one. Like, it's very easy to maybe raise an eyebrow towards this guy. I know it takes a lot of years sometimes to get these things going. So the fact that Rogue One's well in the past, not a concern in my conversation points here. But you made this deal. He was 81 in 1993, and were you worried? How did this come about? Like, Peter, they're gonna turn you into something one day. I want the rights to that. And did the family not know? And I know that Disney, Lucasfilm didn't feel they need the, explicit permission from the estate back then. Even though I feel it was kind of touted that they did, which is something I maybe have said in the past that they got the Cushing estate permission. Sounds like they didn't. They just paid them a small fee because they felt that in 1977 we're going to turn you into toys, even though they didn't in 77. We're going to turn you into toys. We're going to turn you into towels. We're going to turn you into cereal. It seems like something about that conversation made them feel that they have it here. Look, let's also Disney recently, they backed down, but recently we're like, no, you signed up for Disney Plus. You give up all rights to injury in their park. Like, it's like, what? So it's a curious battle. There might be people on his side. We're going to have more conversations here today in a second about the issues behind, turning Cushing into a computer program, so to speak. But there's so many things I do want to find out. So, take it to trial. Let's see where this goes.
Well, I mean, now you're just making me sad that there weren't Tarkin towels back in the day, that we didn't all grow up with Tarkin towels.
Tarkin O's, yeah.
Clean myself now in my hour of triumph with my Tarkin towel. Yeah, I would assume that Disney will prevail. I'm trying to remember what year that Fred Astaire vacuuming commercial came out. So
that's the first big one.
Gosh,
there were some rumblings of that. So maybe if there was something happening around that time, maybe a film company was like, hey, there's some rumblings of people, using images of people in commercials and things like that. So maybe
that makes sense.
And, maybe it's just taken this many years for the gears to get it moving. Maybe it is somebody who's a new owner of the company discovered a document and whatever. Yeah. I think because of their power and the ability to hire lawyers, they will probably prevail. I think there's a good chance it's a settlement, because I think even if this case didn't win, I think there are going to be more cases like this. And I think it could have, it could dovetail with, negotiations that are going on with unions and things like that, to make larger companies more cautious about, is it worth the trouble of doing this? So I don't know that I would guess that that Tyburn Film Productions is going to win this specific case, but I think there's a possibility that it could start to make a difference in the discussion and the choice for companies to reuse likenesses, even if they legally can. Is it worth it? Yeah, on a legal level. Anyway, now we'll get into the more of the big picture thoughts now that our expert legal commentary is all done. Ken, how are you feeling specifically about Star Wars using tech to recreate actors now? We've talked over the years. Lots of people have different feelings that you can look at it from the perspective of, this is a part of the legacy of Star Wars to push technology forward and figure out new groundbreaking ways to do things. So are you feeling like using tech to create performances of actors who have passed? Is that embracing new technology, or for you, is it starting to become too focused on the past?
I know I like it from the embracing new technology point of view, and I always like to go to a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works. I was one who has always been on board with the Tarkin one. I thought it worked. I was surprised, and I liked that he was there because he would be there, right? And so you have a story with this character. We're so used to recasting just in our generation. That wouldn't have been a problem to me, but I like that they took the swing. The Leia beat at the end, a great emotional beat, one of my favorite beats in Star Wars, doesn't work for me as much in terms of just the visuals of it. I wouldn't mind if they redid that going forward, to be on Rogue One Special Edition. But case by case, I love it in Dial of Destiny. Despite it being old Harrison Ford voice, 80-year-old Harrison in a 45-year-old body, it worked for me because it had great purpose and had great themes behind it. And we've talked about it before several times, Book of Boba Fett, Luke, is I like it. I think it's very good. I wouldn't want a new series with that recast at that point. So for me, it's not a cop-out answer. It's just case by case. How are you using it? Why are you using it? And I don't feel it's too attached to the past. If it's a story set in this timeline and the character would be there and this is how you want to approach it, I'm going to always be there with you to explore what that actually ends up being.
Jennifer, how are you feeling about it, particularly in a Star Wars context?
I'm conflicted. I think I understand. I mean, Star Wars has always been at the forefront of technology. It makes sense that they would want to embrace this technology. I didn't like Tarkin. It's all right. Leia, it's all right. And I was like anti the use of the technology until Book of Boba Fett, and I saw Luke Skywalker, and I was like, okay, this is actually getting very good. It's getting very believable because that's part of my issue with it is it takes me out of the story. But it's like with Star Wars, it's unique. I don't think you could recast a Luke Skywalker yet. I don't know how fans would feel about that. I mean, look at what we had with Alden Ehrenreich, who gave a great performance as Han Solo, and yet people still just wouldn't buy it because they're comparing him to Harrison Ford. So I'm conflicted. I think you're right, Ken. Case by case basis, especially as the technology evolves and gets even better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I think it's case by case, and it's one thing with the legacy characters with Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill around to advise and discuss, and then it's a different thing with actors who have passed. I don't think it's perfectly done, but I love that Leia, as portrayed by Carrie Fisher, is in The Rise of Skywalker, because it's one of the things that I love about the film is that it was on a mission to firmly state that it's the Skywalker twins, and Leia is and always has been just as important as Luke. And I think that film does so much to honor her with the tools available at the time, and with the total support of the people who were left when in charge of her legacy. But I think I feel like for Star Wars, I always like it when, they're trying something new. But Star Wars has always been this like balance of let's find new technology so we can kind of tell stories in a new way and make them exciting. And there's something for me that even though it sometimes works really well, there's something about it that it's not exciting. It's technology that sometimes makes me feel a little less alive. And I want Star Wars to make me feel alive. Cushing, the Tarkin performance mostly works for me. I don't think his mouth quite moves the way a human mouth does for me. So there's the mix of does it work or not for you? Does it take you out? I used to be more supportive of it in Star Wars because it was this legacy of let's try groundbreaking technology. But I feel like maybe my opinion about how it's used in Star Wars is shifting a little bit because of the way the technology is growing outside of Star Wars. And it's a much larger conversation to me than it was in 2016. So with that, we can roll on to talking about it more in the big picture. Again, how do you feel about just the larger moral question of using an actor's likeness after death to create a performance? It's one thing to, put out a great Tarkin action figure that Peter Cushing did sign off on, and it's an action figure, but it's not other people making a performance, doing what, this man was famous for, which was creating a performance, and other people are creating that performance using his image. How are you feeling about that these days?
I agree with you that it's the scope of the conversation has only gotten larger, more important since 2016. We have that catch-all term of AI going around that is part of our lives daily now in terms of what do you do with it, what do you want to do with it, what's the conversation behind it, and I think that absolutely bleeds into it. And you mentioned the Fred Astaire of dancing vacuums, and there was a lot of outrage at that time. I kind of forgot about that. That was craziness to see that. Now it seems so innocent. I think there is we talked about the idea of James Earl Jones' voice we know is going to live on and perhaps in new ways with Respeecher and some of the agreements he made. Is it going to be the same? And I don't know. The answer, I'll see how I feel, but it might not be the same. And that's what's changed. The post-death thing, it's complicated. And I have a friend, we got into a little debate even during Rise of Skywalker, not even about the film, but just he was like, I don't care if the family needed some cash and wanted to sign off a deal. I don't care. I don't think they should have done it, and I don't think it was right. I'm like, but they did. So what do you do with it? And a recasting would work in a lot of spots, but I loved it for Han Solo, but it was younger. Going forward, you put Alden Ehrenreich in a Thrawn film, I think I'd be on board. I know a lot of people wouldn't, but then they wouldn't be on board for Digihan. So it's truly complicated in terms of the morality of it. I'm not a legal expert, and I'm not God. I don't know.
I think that's the first time we've had somebody answer a question on ForceCenter about Star Wars. Like, I'm not God, but this is larger than Star Wars. Yeah, I really agree that the starting point of the conversation seems to be with a lot of people like, well, did the did the family sign off on it? Mm-hmm. And that is a legal question and a moral question to me. And with some families or estates, they're very tied into the legacy, and they're making choices based on, this is what I believe my parent, my sibling would have wanted. And then, there are some estates that are just like, I hold the reins and I just want money. And so the estate signed off of it is sometimes for me like, okay, well, if it's truly a loved family member making a decision they believe their loved one would like, that's a great moral thing to me. If it's somebody going like, I'm going to get me some Tarkin bucks, that's not a moral decision to me. So that in and of itself is it's not just a green light. I think for myself, it is complicated case by case basis, but I think since 2016, even since the first appearance of Luke in Mando, it went from deep fake to, we can kind of recreate an actor with his tech, and we got to be careful of that because there can be some misuse of information. Now there is massive misuse of information. The picture of Taylor Swift that was reposted claiming that she supported Trump when she did not is just it's a lie. For me, it's just such a larger thing than just using an actor who's passed to create a performance. I think for myself, it's also just what I'm feeling with a lot of the way we interact with the world. I'm not against any technology, but I think a lot of technologies by big corporations are trying to make things less human because they can make money faster and easier. They do not want you to call and talk to a person because it will cost them money. They don't want you to figure out where the button they've hidden to unsubscribe from something is. I went to the Hollywood Bowl the other week, and I really understand that they need a better system for when it's really busy. It wasn't busy that night at Hollywood Bowl, so I had to walk up to a screen, put in my name, my email, my phone number to put in an order, and then an 18-year-old handed me a pizza that had been cooked 2 hours ago. I couldn't walk up to this window and say, I would like the pizza, please. And I know I'm a little bit of yelling at a cloud here, but I think it is bigger than times change. You get used to new technologies. I think we're at a risk of losing lots of human connection and lots of authenticity. And art, at the end of the day, no matter what tool you use to make it, is about authenticity. And I think because I'm feeling that so passionately in all aspects of our life, I kind of feel like, you want Tarkin, recast one of the million amazing human actors we have and make it as human as possible is the way I'm feeling. Jennifer, how are you feeling about the kind of larger moral questions?
The train has left the station, and I mean, younger people, even at doctor's offices, are now, texting me, and I'm like, can I just call you, like, to figure out this appointment? Like, texting is just, so yeah, I don't like it. I really don't like it because an actor gets to choose their roles, right? They decide and they decide based on how they're feeling that year or that moment where they're like, yeah, I want to sign on to do this weird film, right? And I think it is hard because when I look at somebody like Billie Lourd, she is a wonderful ambassador for Star Wars and for her mom and for Debbie Reynolds, right? And so, like, I trust her, and I trust that she's going to have the best interest. I mean, I don't know if she's in charge of the estate. I'm just saying, using it as an example. But yeah, other people, I don't know what their motives are. And sure, this person could be in a vacuum commercial. It just feels weird and like dystopian and like something from a Pixar movie about the future of our society. What was that movie? Wall-E? Like, I don't know. Just it's troubling. It's troubling, but it is what it is. And you either embrace it and go with it, or you become an old person and have difficulty buying a Metro Pass, right? So
I've ordered pizza at the Hollywood Bowl the way you're talking about, Joseph. I just sit there and sign up for a membership right in front of the restaurant.
What?
So you're right here. I'm right here.
Yeah, and some of it is just like, yes, technology changes, and then other things are like, but we do have a choice over, text over email. Like, fine, people want to communicate differently. It's still communicating. It's still a connection. It's more like the corporate side of it that's for me. Struggle with. So here's a really easy, fun question to wrap up with. Ken, what right to your own likeness would you sell away? What would you want to allow after you're gone?
All of it, any of it, unless it was endorsing any Republican presidential candidate. I have the Tormund's giant bang, Game of Thrones. Do you want to say something to the dead body? The dead can't hear us. I'm gone. Make your money, but I don't mean that in light of anything that we're talking about here. I would trust my Grace and our Chihuahua to make the right decisions. I'd be honored if anyone would use my voice. I'm like, it's good you went to me first because I'm gone. Burn my body and say a prayer, and I'll see you on the other side. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So, metaphysical questions of your own awareness aside, how would you feel now when you were alive if you knew that somebody were going to use all these hours of broadcasting you've done to make you like, hey, if they're like, hey, I'm annoyed that Ken never did a review of The Lion King, and I'm just going to create what I think he would have thought about The Lion King.
You know what? As long as you put a disclaimer, let's.
All right.
Fine. Yeah. I don't mean to be like I just. I'm fascinated by some of it. I think I use AI more than the three of us here. I use it for research reasons. There's this great thing I actually last week started using. So it's like I'm fascinated by some of it. It gets close, but it's not right. So, all right, do my review of Lion King. It probably would have been better than mine.
No.
Yeah.
that I'm going to strongly disagree with. No.
It just... it's look again, as long as, but the danger is how you're going to use it. I guess it goes back to this. I never minded seeing Fred Astaire dance with a vacuum. I didn't think it was funny or witty. I didn't think it was, I don't like talking dogs in commercials, but I was like, he's gone. So what are we gonna do? He's dancing with Britney Spears selling Pepsi. What do you want? What do you want?
Oh my gosh.
Jennifer, what do you want to happen to your likeness? Would you sell it away?
I'd sell it away right now. Someone take it, pay me money so I can license myself. I'm happy to do that. I mean, quite frankly, I did that when I did stock photo work as an actor, like, basically, or like I've seen myself as like selling like dental things, advertising, local dentists. I'm like, oh, that's me. Unfortunately, you only generally get like a flat rate, which is not really great. The celebrities now, they can sell it in individual companies, and they can make a lot of money. But yeah, after I'm dead, no, unless it's going to benefit my kids, no, don't do it. Who would want my likeness anyways? Like, please. They're going to create like
Vacuums.
fake us where they're going to it's going to be a composite.
Yeah.
They'll take a little bit of me, a little bit of more of like a white person, and then like try and mesh us together so we're the ultimate ethnically ambiguous person, which is what I used to get in commercials. Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Maybe someone will make an ultimate ForceCenter where we're all blended together.
I've already warned my mom and dad, and I came up with a code word. So if I ever call them asking for money because I'm in an emergency, that they'd know it was me or not. So
That's smart.
Yeah, yeah,
very smart.
Yeah.
I think I would sell my likeness to be an action figure. That's fine.
Oh yeah.
See,
I'm on the fence about performance of any kind, even with a disclaimer, because regardless of what I am aware of or not aware of, when I am not in this state of existence, to me, legacy matters. The way we continue matters. So I think I would be pretty uncertain about saying put other words in my mouth. I think that's the thing for me. Like you said, Jennifer, like when an actor signs up to do something, they're going to get edited and they're going to get rearranged, and they do not have full control over the performance, but they have the choice to go, I trust this director, I trust this company, or I don't trust them. And I know I'm probably not going to like the choices they make in my performance, but it's still a choice somewhere. And I think I do struggle with that lack of choice. But anyway, look forward to the combined ForceCenter. The three of us as one being discussing this very question. All right. A wide-ranging episode of ForceCenter. Ken, you want to take us home?
I do. You can find us in a lot of spots. We are ForceCenter Pod. Check out Blue Sky and Threads now. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Instagram as well. You can find the podcast in a lot of spots. Just search. You'll find us. It's really us. Merch available 2 spots right now. tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And also you can find links down below for our fourth wall shop that we just started and are growing here. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly. As we said before, you can follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, KenNapzok.com. No big things coming our way. Now, I will say my radio show, Pop Rockin' Radio, is back and actually on the radio. It's broadcast live in Pennsylvania every Sunday night at midnight Eastern, but you can listen to it anywhere via like TuneIn or Radio Box app or radio app. Just type in Hall of Fame Music Radio, and you can hear 2 hours of Pop Rockin' Radio every Saturday night or wherever you are in the world. Jen, you?
Nice.
That's so cool. You can find me and my adventures in modifying my fake Blythe doll on Instagram at Jennifer Landa or TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
By the way, I loved watching. You're into it. You're like
I
ripping
know.
their necks off, and you're like adding joints to their necks.
Oh, it was so satisfying. It was awesome.
What is going on over there? Love it. Love it. Joseph, take us home, sir. And what dolls are you ripping apart right now?
Well, I haven't watched that video yet, so I know what I'm going to watch with my lunch. That sounds really good to see some ripping happening. You can find me on social media, Blue Sky and Threads. Hey, at Joseph Scrimshaw. Find me there. You can also go to my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for updates on all the stuff I've got going on. I'm working hard to make a feature film, and if you want to help out with that, I have a partnership with an organization in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. The organization is called Film North, and they can collect a straight, one-time, tax-deductible donation that will go toward the making of the film. So if you're interested in helping out, there's a link for that real big on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. That is it from us, the real us for now, but we'll see what happens. This has been